You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObsessive.com.
Hello, welcome back to the TV Obsessive Podcast. This is episode 12. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor to TVObsessive.com. I'm here with Caemeron Crane, executive editor. And Caemeron, have you ever punched anything so hard you broke your hand?
No, not quite. Like maybe like cut my hand a little bit or something. I punched out a window one time.
Oh, that didn't break your hand?
No, just the glass. This is not all recommended behavior. Don't anyone take me as endorsing this moment that I'm referring to of my teenage whatever. And forget that. I didn't actually do that. No.
Okay. I was gonna say, were the kids you were coaching making you mad? Is that why you punched the glass?
No, it was like I was in high school and I don't know. Yeah, forget it. No, we didn't do that. Anyway, good to see you. So, as per usual, we'll run through a little bit of news of the week, such as it is, talk about what we've been watching in a spoiler-free sort of way, and then the latter half we'll dig into winning times we've been doing for several weeks now, enjoyably. So it's September 5th. What do we got today? What's in the news, Ryan?
Yeah, a little bit more than we've had the past couple of weeks. I think you and I have talked before. You, towards the end, you were not a Succession watcher. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. Although I am aware of this bit that you're about to mention, and I actually do have strong opinions about this. So
Okay.
you have to like keep me from going on too much of a tangent.
Okay, so you understand the mystery around the underline / cross through name of Kendall Roy in the final season. Yes, you understand this?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm aware enough of the TV world that this came up and people were talking about it, and I understand like the stakes of it and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it came out. So I guess the creator of the show, Jesse Armstrong, came out this week and was doing the interview and answered once and for all. He said this was not supposed to be a mystery. It was supposed to be that Kendall Roy's name was underlined on the sheet of paper that discussed where the company would go after Logan Roy's passing. As a matter of fact, Jesse Armstrong is the one who underlined the name himself for creating this fake controversy around this sheet of paper. So he said this was never meant to be a mystery box show. This was always supposed to be something that people understood where it was going. So that answered a lot of questions that people had as this show wrapped up. So what's your angle? What's your story here on the Kendall revelation?
I don't care for it. I wish that showrunners, creators would not do things like this. This
was exactly what I was going to ask you, by the way. So,
oh really? Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I have a pretty strong view that is like the text is the text, as it were, and could bring in like Roland Barthes and talk about the death of the author and stuff like that. There's ambiguity within the show, and however it arose, I would be of the mind that I prefer it with the ambiguity, and for the show creator to come out and offer a resolution to that ambiguity completely non-diegetically outside of the work itself. I mean, I wish they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I thought about the first thing that popped into my head. This is someone that's not watched the entire show. The first thing that popped in my head was Sopranos. David Chase, I do not believe, has ever come out and given a definitive answer of the last scene of Sopranos and what happened. And I think that's part of the appeal of that last episode.
Yeah, nor should he. And yeah. I mean, like, you have to realize I'm holding myself back, Ryan. There's part of me that wants to say, like, Jesse Armstrong has no right to say this. His opinion on the matter holds no more weight than yours or mine. David Chase's would hold no more weight than anyone else's about the ending. Like, I kind of hold that view, It's like, if you wanted to resolve it determinately, you put it in the thing itself,
Yeah.
And I actually thought this was kind of interesting as someone who doesn't watch Succession, that you had this kind of ambiguous moment in there. Were they debating it within the show itself, though? I thought they were.
Yeah, so this sort of became the tipping point of how things moved once they found this piece of paper about 2 or 3 episodes into the final season of how things moved from that point forward. This was a revelation that they found this sheet of paper that did not know existed, something Logan Roy hand wrote on there. And so that sort of started these battles and this conflict of, okay, what did he really mean by that?
Yeah. See, that all sounds compelling to me. Again, I didn't
Yeah.
watch the show. Apologies to people for the mild, what we're verging right up against Succession spoilers here. I just held myself back. As someone who hasn't seen it, I know that some of the topic. But yeah, so there's that. It's Bob Newhart's birthday. Did you notice that?
I did see that. You pointed that out to me. I am very embarrassed to say I did not realize he was still alive.
That's why I'm mentioning it. I saw that it was birthday and I was like, oh, he's still alive. You know, I mean, it happened. He's 94. You know,
94 years young.
94. Yeah,
what I saw, he started working in 1958. Did I see that correctly? That's incredible.
It is. Some of these guys, Mel Brooks, you know, I mean, some of them aren't going to last that longer, but
yeah.
Well, happy birthday to Bob.
Happy birthday, Bob Newhart, man. Way to go.
Long and fruitful TV career, which kind of ended a while ago, I guess, but
it did.
Like 2 different sitcoms, right?
He's not been active in a long time. I've seen Mel Brooks on a couple of talk shows here and there, but I don't think I've seen Bob Newhart anywhere recently.
Yeah, I saw Mel Brooks on you ever watch that Seinfeld show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw him on there. I mean, that was a few years ago. So.
That's right. Yeah, that was a few years ago.
But then, of course, they did the History of the World Part 2.
Right.
And, he was at least an intro to that. He did like an intro, but I don't think he was really in it. I never actually watched all of that. Did you?
Nope, have not caught it yet.
I was a fan of the original film.
Have not caught it. My son, who's becoming quite the cinephile, asked the other day, after looking through a genre of movies, if we had heard of this movie called Blazing Saddles and could he watch it. And we had to say, nope, that's on the no list. He's 12 years old.
How old is your son?
He's 12 years old.
I like there's a running thing. You know, social media has gotten particularly terrible, but I do like the kind of running jokes of how, like, you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today because it's already 9 p.m. and I don't think there's enough time for that. I like these kind of running jokes about it.
Oh, those two guys, yeah, legends, absolute legends. Well, let me just touch on a couple of things I noted in terms of current series that have various updates these days. You also did not watch or were a casual watcher of House of the Dragon.
Well, no, I watched that.
You did watch House of the Dragon. Okay. I noticed that within a month they are going to be completing their filming and getting ready for post-production of season 2. They've yet to set a date, but it's coming. And so we talked about this maybe a month or even 2 months ago, that they have been able to keep filming, to keep going, to keep progressing on their season because according to George R.R. Martin, all the scripts had gone through 4 or 5 different sets of revisions and they decided not to change anymore. And B, their entire cast is British and they fell under this equity group in terms of representation. So they were not impacted by the strike. The writers would have been if they wanted more edits, but apparently they didn't. So the show's about to be done filming.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess no last minute edits, no, well, yeah, basically, no little adjustments. So, I mean, I think in general that's sort of bad. Who knows how much, if at all, it affected this? Maybe the scripts are good and straightforward enough that it didn't really cause any problems. And as you say, it's all equity actors. So okay, but I seem to recall even before all of the strikes and everything that they were saying 2024 for the show.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this became trying to think the timing of season 1 and a previous Game of Thrones season. If this wasn't a fall sort of capstone show for HBO in 2024, that would seem to be a likely scenario to give them time to get all this stuff out of the way in terms of the strikes. Their people can promote it, they can get it in post-production. So fall is my guess. We don't have anything definitive yet.
Yeah, it could be the spring. They started releasing a ton of stuff in the spring anymore.
Yep.
And I know that at least the 1 season of Game of Thrones was on in the spring or summer.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was airing at the same time as Twin Peaks: The Return, and it was like the weirdest. I did that season of Game of Thrones is. I thought the show was starting to turn bad, in my opinion, too. But I kept doing this thing where, like, I would watch Twin Peaks and then I'd turn on Game of Thrones and just be like, "This show is really unsophisticated. What's going on?" So I do recall when that aired. So we'll see. We've got that coming up. By the way, we were talking last week about what HBO is going to have on Sunday nights after Winning Time is over, and it looks like the answer might be nothing.
That's the best we can tell. Yeah,
as best we can tell. So reruns, plug something. Maybe they'll show White House Plumbers again. I don't know. They'll check their schedule. I mean, there'll be something
you mentioned
on HBO.
Yeah, you mentioned the Gilded Age season 2 that has a date apparently, or at least a general date.
Yeah, no, it's like October 29th or something like that. So there's this period of time, because I think I calculated it's 5 weeks, and it looks like they're not going to have a new show, which is significant because in normal times, this would be unthinkable. They always have something in that slot. It's like their main kind of prestige thing they put in that slot. And even the Gilded Age, as I said, I think season 1 was on Mondays. So we're seeing some adjustments that they're making, and clearly. Well,
and we were speculating last week about True Detective. It looks like that they're very close to announcing a January release for True Detective, similar to The Last of Us was in 2023. It's going to come out in January 2024.
Yeah, I saw that. I think they're saying January, but again, I don't know. Is that done or what? Where does that stand? Are they thinking, oh well, by then the strikes will have been over and we can finish up post-production or what? There. Speaking of Max, or HBO and Max, slightly different, as I always try to emphasize. But did you see the story where Max apparently has been toying with the idea of putting CNN news alerts while you're watching whatever you're watching?
I did.
What do you think of that? Right?
I mean, I can't say that I am terribly interested in, when I am just invested in these shows, that I want something popping up in terms of a newsletter, but also can't say I'm watching too many of them as they happen. So am I going to get the news alerts 2.5 hours later?
No. See, I would imagine that whatever you're watching, the news alerts now.
I see.
That's I don't know. I mean, I would be tempted if this were like 25 years ago. Part of me might think like, oh, I get that. That makes sense, But they've gotten so liberal about what they think is breaking news, that you're going to end up with something just stupid stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like if they could be judicious enough that it was only like interrupting because of 9/11 or something like that. But it's not going to be that. It's going to be like, oh, breaking news, Ron DeSantis ate a hot dog. I'm trying to watch Game of Thrones. So
I think that 9/11 or another OJ chase, that's the threshold we have to.
Yeah, something like that. I'm pretty sure that September 11th, which is coming up next week, so fine. The anniversary. But I'm pretty sure that was the real kind of birth of the constant scrolling cryon at the bottom. I don't know if younger people know.
I think you're right. That was a sense of, everyone was watching news 24/7. How do you say everything you want to say and also show everything you want to show? So they just had to start this nonstop ticker at the bottom. That I don't have any sort of history with that, but that makes complete sense to me.
I think that's right. But then the thing is, it never went away. So that now they treat everything like there's always that. I don't know. I'm going on a rant again. There's not that much breaking news. Like
there's not that much breaking news. The only thing that this may be the antithesis of breaking news is in the most expected news ever. But one more thing we'll touch on is, except for a couple things already in the bag and announced, being Loki season 2 and the second season of What If, Marvel is delayed. All of their shows, all pushed into 2024, all with a speculative, tentative tag attached to them. This is Bob Iger's attempt to really slow down on how much they're doing and how much they're spending, and B, they're pummeling people with this stuff when there's been so many complaints about the the quality and consistency of it in terms of shows and movies, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know how much decided in the strike. It seems like a weird tactic to me with regard to the strike.
Yeah.
It's with delaying films and things like this. Like, I guess, okay, you want the actors to be able to be out there and promote the film or whatever, but it seems like a weird kind of game they're playing. And they went from the studios went from saying weeks ago, like, oh, look at the money we're saving, to now like reporting, oh, we're losing hundreds of millions of dollars because of all of this.
Yeah, it is still interesting. You've said this 2 weeks in a row. You go to any of these trade stories or online stories about these shows or movies being postponed or canceled, inevitably in the first two paragraphs it's something because of strike, something due to the conditions related to what's happening with the ongoing strikes. And I don't know who is providing the information that that's the reason, or if that's the sort of cause and effect of these things, but you and I are just not buying it, I don't think.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. Or I'm buying it, but as a weird tactic. Like, part of me imagines that like the studios are trying to get people to blame the people on strike by delaying Dune. And I just don't think it's working.
Nope.
That's the biggest thing. If you spend any time on social media, you spend time on Twitter, it does not at all seem like the AMPTP is winning the messaging battle. And then you see articles saying like 75% of Americans are on the side of the workers. That's like, dude, that's huge numbers. That's like 25% of Americans still supported Nixon when he resigned. Like, you don't get to that number about many things. So
we'll see. Still no end in sight, so we'll see how that happens. But in the meantime, is there anything that you've been watching that's caught your eye? Anything new, anything old? What's been on your screen?
Yeah, I've been watching. I mean, I've kind of wrote myself into a good amount of writing at the moment, so I'm not having a ton of time to watch things. I'm not also writing on Invasion, which comes out on Wednesdays, and so I'm up to doing that week to week. We kicked off this week a series I'm writing on episodes of the X-Files written by Darren Morgan. So we published something on Humbug on Monday, and we'll work through the rest of those. At least that's the plan. 30th anniversary of the X-Files is on this coming Sunday, the 10th, which I think we hit on in the previous week. And then this upcoming Apple TV show, which we talked about, The Changeling, I have screeners for that, so I'm starting to watch that, and I'm kind of working into it. And
do you know a date on that one? A release date for that show?
That comes out on Friday.
On Friday already comes out, or is about to come out?
September 8th. It comes out on this coming Friday, September 8th. It premieres with 3 episodes. I believe I am allowed to talk about it in a spoiler-free way, and I will just say to you and the world, those 3 episodes are kind of slow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm intrigued, but man, they really kind of are taking 3 hours to set up the story on this one. So boy. Just be aware, it's not gonna grab you like Gremlins 2 or something. It's like you're just kind of okay.
We talked about the trailer, one of those shows where every bit of action and interest is in the 2.5 minute trailer.
Yeah. It's just kind of that sort of thing, But I don't know. It's based on a book, and part of me thinks maybe it's being too faithful to the book. Like, maybe it's being too faithful to the structure of the book, And I did actually start watching episode 4, and like I think it's picking up, So I don't know. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but it's almost just like I'm not trying to be down on it. Like, watch the show. It's just be aware that you're going to kind of have a sort of slowly developing story here. And I don't know. What about you? What are you watching?
Okay. Yeah, I'll put it in line behind a few things. Tonight we're recording on Tuesday, September 5th. Tonight is the halfway point already of Ahsoka. I've been writing about that for the site. First 3 episode recaps are up. Tonight will be the fourth. Interested to see what they do after a couple of episodes, primarily episode 3, trying to reset how they're pitching the show and promoting the show to its different fan bases. But good story. Looking to see what they do with that over the last 5 episodes. I just because I noticed that it's the complete series ended last week. I'd never caught this before. I'm about done already. I'm in the middle of season 3 with How To with John Wilson. Have you ever seen any of these?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't seen all of it though. It's weird that you meant to, like, I get the impression you discovered it and binged it, which I thought was going to happen to me. And then, like, I started watching it. I think I got distracted by other things and haven't made my way back to it. But I know it ended recently. And
yeah, the 18 total episodes across 3 seasons. They're all exactly 28 minutes each. So not difficult to sit down and plow through them. And it just, again, one of these where I had no expectations or understanding going into it, but have been very pleasantly surprised with the combination of humor and how poignant it is and how just sort of an interesting commentary, not just on, this guy just really goes all in on what it's like to be in New York City, but what that can look like if you're elsewhere. It
is a very New York show.
Yes,
I
very
lived
much
in New York City for 14 years. And I love it. I love the vibe of it. There's like random shots in there of New York City too, which is great.
Oh,
yeah. You're just kind of like, is that guy planking for no reason? It's like, yeah, that's what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I watched a good amount of the first season at least, and I should get back to that. I've heard really good things about how it ended. The one that really sticks in my mind is he goes in a deep dive about people who cover their furniture in plastic.
Yes,
really
and just to use that one as an example, I mean, if you're at all curious about checking out the show, he uses the title of that episode is How to Cover Your Furniture. And so he just gets intrigued by this idea of people that cover their furniture. There was an old Everybody Loves Raymond episode about this too, right? About his parents always had their furniture covered. He gets intrigued with this idea of why people do that, because he buys nothing but old, used, awful furniture because his cat just tears it up nonstop. And so he looks at what life would be like to live like that, and how he always uses these ideas as metaphors for something else, and how if we cover everything up, always try to keep everything perfect, then what is our life really like if we're constantly living in fear of that. So it was a good cover for an episode that had a really cool deep idea to it.
Yeah, well, I always felt like that was sort of the move,
Yeah,
and you can call it a metaphor, but I almost feel like he does something really interesting where he kind of dives so deep into something so kind of mundane, like covering your furniture or scaffolding or something, and sort of through this finds some kind of reflection on the human condition. I don't know. It's a great show. Yeah,
that's exactly
go watch the rest of How To with John Wilson now.
Yeah, and I will say you see a lot of the glamorous parts of New York and TV and movies. He is highlighting specifically the unglamorous sides of New York. I just watched the How to Find a Public Restroom episode, and that makes you not want to go to.
That's what I mean. Like, he doesn't. It's not a very New York show in the way that like Law and Order or something is. It's very New York show in the way you watch it. Be like, it's kind of what living in New York is sort of like. That's
it. That's it for me. That's what I'm focused on right now. I will be, just as we touched on a second ago, in about 4 weeks, picking up and writing about Loki season 2. So back to back Disney shows for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff with like aliens. We got the invasion. Of course, invasion's way more straightforward than the X-Files. Because like the X-Files kind of like, are there aliens? And the invasion is like, there are aliens and we are fighting a war against the aliens. Right. They look kind of like koosh balls for some reason. Anyway. All right, man. So should we get to winning time?
Let's do it. This is a good episode. We should jump right into it.
Yeah, sounds good. So, okay, as per usual, everyone, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. On the other side of that, we're going to dig into Winning Time Season 2, Episode 5, titled The Hamburger Hamlet for some reason. I don't know, maybe we'll talk about that. But anyway, all spoilers on the table for everything that's happened in Winning Time up to and including this most recent episode, Season 2, Episode 5, which aired 2 days ago on Sunday night. And okay, see you on the other side.
All right, we are back, ready to talk about Winning Time, Season 2, Episode 5, titled The Hamburger Hamlet. Just as a quick synopsis for this episode, we saw in Episode 4, Magic Johnson made a trade demand. Well, that trade demand is causing tension between the team, between Lakers management, between the players. Owner Jerry Buss consults with Magic and his management team. Decision is made to fire Coach Paul Westhead and put in sort of a two-headed coaching monster of Jerry West and Pat Riley in a very confusing press conference. Jerry West really wants no part of it. The players look at Riley more as a friend and a partner than a coach, but Riley has a very quick transformation in this episode, putting on the Showtime persona, which leads them to the best record in the West for the 1981-82 season, setting up a rematch with Philadelphia in the NBA Finals. We end the episode with Philadelphia beating the Celtics, who in Boston shower the 76ers with a beat LA chant as they head off to the 82 finals. So we presume that's what it'll be about next week. Thoughts on that episode, or just sort of how this was set up with the coaches, or with the what we're clearly going to see next week?
Yeah, great. So we break this apart, kind of dig into various aspects of it. I mean, you're right that Riley's transformation was quick as it was presented in the episode, where, as I predicted, Ryan raced right through months.
Yeah.
I called that, right?
Yeah.
We got to the certain point, it was like half of this episode or more, and then all of a sudden it was like boom, 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 finals. So yeah, we'll talk about Riley's transformation. The press conference, so we've been fact checking things a bit. So the press conference seems pretty accurate. We on a YouTube video, and like it's not the entire thing. It's kind of caught up, at least what I watched. But this is more or less what happened. What do you think about this?
Yeah, you're exactly right. There were some beat for beat words in terms of what was said at the actual press conference, what was used in the show here in Episode 5. This is I can only imagine how chaotic it must have been in behind the scenes and in real life. But yeah, I mean, it kind of fits who Jerry Buss seems to be. We're going to do something on a whim. We're going to do something that I think is right, but we're going to figure it out as we go along. We're going to build the plane as we're flying it. And he, of course, had no sense that Pat Riley would become the icon that he ended up becoming. And man, this looked like a messy situation, but they portrayed it very accurately according to what we saw on the footage.
Yeah, I mean, you can hardly imagine anything so messy now, just in terms of the PR of it.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess there's no one to rein Jerry Buss in effectively, and that's part of it. And he just thinks, hey, this is going to be fine. This is what we're going to announce. But you're holding a press conference, and to not be clear about exactly what the point of the press conference is between the people involved, just such a mess. And yes, as they put up on the screen, it would seem this is what actually happened. Now, of course, as you say, of course, he doesn't know what Pat Riley is going to become.
Yeah.
Part of the backstory seems to be that he just wants Jerry West to take it back over.
Yep.
And, in the great running gag of the show, which the real life Jerry West, I think, doesn't like, at least fictional Jerry West wants none of that.
Yeah.
It's like, there's not enough Pepto-Bismol in the world for me to take that job. And so I think that's sort of how it's playing out here, and what they portray relatively accurately is that Jerry West ultimately was like, no, we're just going to keep Pat. We're gonna make Pat the head coach, and he's already moving in that direction during this messy press conference. Another note about this press conference is we get a little cameo here from the author of the book that this show is based on, Jeff Pearlman. I went back and watched this again. I don't recognize the man.
Yeah.
But I read about it afterwards and so on. He's been plucking the show like crazy on Twitter too.
Was he holding a little sign in the footage saying we need more viewers?
Not in the show itself, no. But they call him Jeff in the show, so it's like relatively easy to pick out, which guy is it? I think he asked, who's going to set the starting lineup and things like this. And I read a little behind the scenes thing where he was complaining about the wig that they had him wear and how it affected him and so on and so forth. But he's gung ho about the show.
Yeah.
And trying to get people to watch it and wants a third season. And I think particularly because he feels like he's the only one who can promote it because everyone's on strike.
That's
he's
right.
Promoting it as much as he can.
That's right.
But
well, that sort of raises an interesting point that, okay, so we just finished episode 5. Episode 6, following this timeline, is clearly going to be about the 1982 finals rematch between the Lakers and 76ers. So are you with me? We're pretty clearly not getting to the 1984 NBA finals in this season.
I still think we are, man.
I don't know how.
You've just seen what I've been talking about. That they spend a good bulk of this episode on the coaching situation and leading up to that moment where Pat Riley punches the blackboard and then montage transforms into Pat Riley and montage boop 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 boop. Now it's the end of the season. So like, are they going to hit on that championship series against the 76ers in the next episode? I mean, I think obviously, but I hardly expect it to take up the whole episode.
Let me give you the titles of the next 2 episodes and tell me what you think.
Okay.
The titles, episode 6 and 7. 6, the title is Beat LA, which we have briefly touched on. We'll touch on more. So clearly that's the Philadelphia leaving Boston and going to play LA in the finals. How much of it will take is yet to be seen. Episode 7, what is and what should never be.
Yeah.
Any guesses on what that could be about?
It's going to be, about the showdown in the 1984 NBA Finals. I'm not changing.
Okay. I'm skeptical that we get there, but we'll see who ends up being right.
I think it's structurally signposted, and I'll be very surprised if we don't get there.
There's a whole season in between where, spoiler, neither the Lakers nor Celtics win the championship.
Yeah, right. So they just spend like no time on that season.
Just gloss over that.
It's we'll see. I haven't watched it yet, so we will see. I do want to lump in there on the Beat LA front. Well, first of all, we should note apparently this actually happened, which is insane. Let's pause there for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that this is just nuts? This is a real thing that happened.
It is nuts, especially when you consider, again, they've had historical showdowns for a long, long, long time, but not in over a decade at this point. So there's still that much hatred for LA when they haven't met in the finals in more than 10 years for them to say they are so badly want LA to lose that they want Philadelphia to go beat them. So yeah, there's just this deep hatred between the two.
And that the reaction of the fans in Boston Garden.
Right.
This is significant. Let's go really slow if anyone missed all these details or isn't aware. This is the home crowd in Boston after their team has lost in Game 7, I believe,
right,
to the Philadelphia 76ers, who are also a bit of a rival.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're chums or whatever,
Yeah.
And I think you noted here the Celtics had a better record. Yeah, because they were playing at home in Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Celtics are the higher seed. They're being upset by the Philadelphia 76ers here. This is like crying your beer, go burn some cars kind of moment. But no, instead, the fans of Boston unite and start chanting "Beat LA," and this really actually happened.
Yes.
Which,
yes.
I don't know, going back early in the episode, I think we should tie this in. I mean, how accurate some of this stuff is, but you get a bit of this kind of bubbling sentiment of people maybe across the country that's anti-Lakers, anti-Magic in particular. Yep. You've got the, classic old woman with little dog, which, is there a source for that? Because it feels like such a trope.
I don't know where it originated, but you do see it everywhere.
It's just like, and yeah, so I think that feeds in that the sense of a sentiment and however fair or accurate this is to think of the Boston Celtics as like the working class team or whatever, that there really was this sentiment, as opposed to the Lakers as the like, they're a bunch of show off divas, of whatever.
Well, I think that that's especially portrayed when we see Magic come back to LA after Westhead is fired. There's even a sentiment amongst the people of LA that, oh, Big Baby got his $25 million, still complaining about the coach. And so he's booed as he comes back onto the court in LA for the first time after Westhead's firing, which also actually happened.
Yeah,
so,
so
he's losing fans in LA because of this.
Yeah. And I mean, in retrospect, and given, again, we're about the same age, and what we're seeing in the show here is a little bit before our time. Like maybe we were alive but not really conscious or whatever. But by the time that we were conscious, it seemed like everyone knew Magic Johnson was like the superstar, one of the best players in the league or ever, you know. So yeah, it's striking. They booed him.
Yeah, they did. And it raised an interesting point that later in the episode, so I like the way that it tied this together, that the fans think a certain way about Magic's contract and his actions related to how he has been given this massive contract versus what Kareem's reaction was. He has this one-on-one with Jerry Buss about the same contract, where Kareem, not saying that he says he's not jealous. He says he doesn't wish he's in Magic's place. He says he doesn't wish that this was something where he was getting the attention instead of Magic, but he actually thinks he did Magic wrong with that contract. Mm-hmm. He knows where the league is headed. He's clairvoyant enough to see what's happened there, and knows that in a matter of a few years, Magic's going to be underpaid, which eventually they did come to terms and agree with that. And Magic was given this big fat check about 10 years later, sort of compensate him for how much he was underpaid on that lifelong contract.
Yeah, Kareem's right. Kareem's smart. He knows his score. He sees that this is actually kind of exploitative, I believe I'd have to double check and look up his salary, but I think he was already making like $1 million a year.
Yeah, maybe close to 2 million.
Yeah, or more. Yeah. So it wasn't unheard of. And, he sees the writing on the wall. Time's going to go on. And salaries are going to increase, I'm not sure how aware people were of some of the stuff that was on the horizon. It's in a couple of years where we start getting some of the salary cap stuff and so on. I was looking at this a couple of weeks ago. So that was a really great scene.
It is true that we're still a couple of years away from Michael Jordan. We're still a couple of years after that of the league really exploding in terms of TV, in terms of international exposure. And so it is just behemoth that it became in terms of money and eyeballs. It's still, to the, I guess, even average LA fan, $1 million a year just seems like a crazy amount.
Oh yeah, you got to realize that. I guess I'm speaking to the youth right now. In 1981, 1982, $1 million was like, I'm gonna never have to work again money. That would be how it landed for people, probably even for a while after that. I mean, adjusted for inflation, you get to now, I don't know, I'd still take $1 million. I still think, maybe I could retire on $1 million and live frugally. But it used to be the very notion of being a millionaire meant you were like incredibly wealthy. And I think at this point, there are a lot of people out there who are millionaires, and they would consider themselves probably fairly to be, maybe upper middle class, but not wealthy. So
not ready to retire.
No, but Kareem's absolutely right here, and I love that scene. No idea if this actually happened at the roller rink.
At the roller rink.
Of fact checking here, but let's talk about Pat Riley. I think that's
yes, please. Yeah, we can't leave this episode without going deep on Pat Riley. You're right.
I noted in reading Hawk's piece on this episode that he did not talk about Pat Riley's hair nearly as much as I would have. but let's tie in the whole transformation, right?
Yeah.
Because I thought this was really great, powerful. I mean, obviously it's a dramatization, but you have this moment of him transforming kind of into Pat Riley when he breaks, when he punches a chalkboard, which not recommended behavior, but the way he's claiming the authority over the team.
Yeah.
And then of course the hair comes later, but I start finding the hair as like symbolic.
Exactly. Yeah. It was funny, just to touch on that before I reference something else you said in the press conference, both an episode and if you go watch the YouTube, it sort of is, it's half there. It's getting there, right? It's not like gelled slick back completely down yet, but it's getting there. So it's sort of the transformation has begun, just as his new coaching regime has begun. In the press conference, it just as in the episode, he's got this kind of frumpy sweater shirt on, right?
Yeah.
And soon he's going to put on the Armani suit. So again, it's happening over time. But I thought this was a smart way to do it, particularly how they go back and show him before he makes that transformation, how the players just kind of messing with him, rubbing his head, just sort of joking around with him. And it was an interesting callback to use the way that Pat Riley and Magic Johnson were creating this bond back when he was hurt, and they were doing these one-on-one sessions together to use the way that they built a relationship. And that became a point of tension with Westhead later. We also can use it to show, he has sort of had this relationship, probably not with just Magic, but with other players as well. So now he has to be more boss than friend. And how is Riley going to respond to that? I think that's what sort of a smart way to lead up to it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a difficult dynamic.
Yeah.
At least I have some personal experience that I won't go into details about that feels somewhat, close to me, I think, because it's like one thing when you're the assistant coach, because you're not the ultimate authority and you can be kind of that intermediary, I'm your buddy, I'm your friend kind of thing, and maybe quite fruitfully. But what we see here, and I thought this was interesting to think about with Paul Westhead too, is the whole question of authority and how one claims authority. And what we see Pat Riley moving to do is much more effectively doing precisely that move than I think Westhead was doing. And, one of the things that's really striking about it is how, at least as it's presented in the show, man, the players are there for it.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense. It gets to how, at least in situations like this, where it's relevant, there can be, I think, a real hunger for leadership.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what he's ultimately offering.
And I think that's an excellent point, because the moment of respect and understanding and appreciation of his leadership came when, even in it was a tough way, he treated everyone equally. Right. Yeah. It was getting in their face, telling them what they needed to be doing and not doing, but he treated everyone the same way. There wasn't any sort of preferential treatment for Magic, for Kareem, for anybody else. Treat everyone equally, then you get the respect of everybody who you're trying to lead.
Yeah, and he says no more Riles, coach.
Right, exactly.
And then he says, look, no more of this stuff coming to me. You got a problem with each other, we talk it out. Like,
exactly.
I feel like he's claiming in that moment, it's not like I'm the adult and you all are like children. He's saying, I'm the guy in charge and you all are adults.
There you go.
Stop acting like children, and kind of we'll work things out, talk to one another, respect my authority, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's the same way with any, workplace. You and I have had experience with this. We know that he's going to give them a new quote unquote system that they're going to be able to play within. But let's come to a level of understanding first, and then I'll give you freedom within the system once we sort of all start from the same level. That's what he has to do with them, sort of knock them down so he can build them back up to where they have the freedom to do what they need to succeed. And I mean, that's a lesson in leadership no matter where you go.
Yeah, exactly. The hair, I read something that apparently in real life he did this to go to a Great Gatsby themed New Year's Eve party.
Ah, okay.
And liked it and just kept doing it. I don't know for sure if that's true. I don't know if it's apocryphal. People can do their own research. I read this on the internet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, my question to you, I put it in the notes. So what do you think's a better transformation? You've watched Better Call Saul, right?
Absolutely.
I was going to presume listeners have, although we can avoid meaningful spoilers. I think everyone knows that in the show, you start with Jamie McGill and he turns into Saul. What do you think is the better transformation? And I guess I'm thinking of in particular when it finally happens in Better Call Saul.
Yeah, so it's hard to compare in terms of character and how they portray these. They're both very, very strong. So for me, it's a matter of you prefer the slow burn versus the sort of quick change on the that we saw here with Riley. I think in the end, I'm always gonna have to go back to maybe just because I've spent so much of my life with Better Call Saul that's always going to be on the top of the list for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I probably have to say the same. Oh, I mean, but it was something of a slow burn here if you think about it. We started with Pat
Sure.
Riley in season 1, and
Sure.
you have that real kind of arc of his character.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really fascinating because obviously, we don't know Pat Riley personally, but he's been in the public consciousness for so long.
Yeah.
That it's like I think of Pat Riley, I think of the guy in the suit with the slick back hair,
Yep.
And to see this previous version of him, which really does seem to match with the available footage of him at the time.
Yeah.
Where he's a bit meeker, he's less certain of himself. He's wearing that. It's a kind of awesome sweater thing, actually. I like the sweater, but all of that. So I mean, it's really striking.
And let me say, so I didn't mention this to you or send it to you in advance. We sort of see this behind the scenes, or at least their portrayal of behind the scenes Pat Riley and how he's handling the stress, how he's handling sort of this tension of what it means to be coach. And he goes home, and in a very short scene, there's Jillian Jacobs as his wife, fresh off of being married to cousin and the bear. I mean, now spouse of Pat Riley, getting these great roles. I was thrilled to see that, but it was actually I thought quite interesting to see how am I handling this behind the scenes versus what we know he is to become out in public and for the years to come. Yeah.
And I do think she was briefly in season 1. The cast of the show is just so impressive that you get these little small parts, but it's Jillian Jacobs,
Exactly.
And we on that front, maybe talk a little bit about Pat Riley's father, Leon Riley. You were looking into him a little bit. Of course, this comes up here in the episode where he's remembering his father and all of that. What do we know about Leon?
Yeah, a little bit of a flashback of sorts that we see there in the episode. Quite a demanding father, was a very impressive, very highly regarded minor league baseball player. I think both with the Philadelphia and Brooklyn franchises. Made it to the majors for 12 total at bats, got 1 hit, and then flamed out, never made it back again. And from what I was able to find, sort of use that, or that became fuel to push his son to be something he never could be, which was just this excellent athlete at the highest level. And so, Pat Riley was a good player. He was a good assistant coach, but he would eventually, after taking on this new persona, maybe somewhat like what his father is, become this elite head coach and elite executive years after. And so a lot of it maybe goes back to what his dad pushed him to do as this very demanding guy.
Yeah. Although I think that, from what I read, I think his dad was also kind of a failed manager. He got
that's true.
And so there's an inversion kind of thing. And so it's an interesting scene with his wife, whose name I am totally blanking on. I know she's played by Jillian Jacobs. Yep. I know her name in this show is not Britta.
But I want to say it's Chris Riley.
Chris, good, got it. But she's kind of pushing him on that. It's one of these structures where I think it's what you're saying, but then it's also you don't want to be your father.
Yeah.
And so finding some kind of balance. And of course, what we get is very kind of quick and done through a montage, but it at least seems like Pat Riley has found a way to kind of claim that authority in the right way that at least seems here to be healthier than what his father was doing. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't read into that too much. We'll see what else happens here in the show.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. We are I think we will see more of that going forward, maybe in what drives him to be the type of coach that he is. Apparently there's going to be more Jillian Jacobs as someone that can be a confidant, someone that can be someone that he pours into as this gets going. But yeah, sort of curious how all that motivates him and puts him in a position to be the coach that he's about to become.
Yeah. Or they're kind of setting it up like he already is, but I mean, I guess, about to is, also a way to put it here.
That's true. That's true. There's a lot of, I mean, again, spoiler alert, I guess there's a lot of Lakers championships still to come and over the next 8 or 9 years.
Yeah. People, it's called the rise of the Lakers dynasty
right.
for a reason. Right. So we'll see what happens. How they structure the only 2 more episodes left in the season. I understand why you're worried, but I still think they're going to get to 1984. That's how they set it up.
It is how they set it up.
I just feel like I know how TV works, right?
Yeah.
I think it'd be very weird if they didn't get there.
Listen, if we don't get to 1984, if we don't get to LA versus Boston, and then we don't get a 3rd season, I mean, I'm going to start the petition to get this show back on somewhere else. I mean, I'm going to lead the charge if we don't get those 2 facing off. So I hope you're right. We'll see.
I wonder what the budget is like for this show. It must be, and like all these actors.
No kidding.
It's got just cast is so loaded. So anyway, everyone who's been listening, presumably watch it already. Watch it more. Cajole your friends.
Yeah.
We need to get a season 3 of this thing. It'll be
we do. No matter what happens the next 2, we need a season 3 and a season 4. Just as many as we can get.
Yeah, and it's got to be this because it's got to be the vibe of this. We know what happens,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not the point. It's how it's all put together here and these performances and the vibe of the show, the style of it, the music, the way that they break the 4th wall all together at the end of the episode to curse Boston. It's great. Love it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I'm looking forward to episode 6 next week. We will be on that a week from now as they surely get into the 82 finals and perhaps more. We'll see how that goes. But for now, please find us on your favorite podcast place, rate us, review us, give us those 5 stars or whatever it is that you do. We appreciate everybody listening. Our site is tvobsessive.com. You can find my work, Cameron's work, and a whole host of other talented writers on that site. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on anywhere you want to find us. Anything else we need to plug, Cameron, before we get out of here?
No, that's about it. We're on Blue Sky now. I set up in Blue Sky.
Oh, we're on all the.
Did you say every except for Threads? I'm not doing Threads. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
I set up my Threads when it came out, and I think it's still sitting there with nothing in it. So
not doing it.
That was hot for 2 days.
Not doing it. We've got an Instagram going, and then it's like I think you have to do Threads through Instagram, and I'm just not doing it. Right. I also don't know how the Instagram works. I post stuff, but anyway. Thanks everyone for listening. And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.